Sportszone Unfiltered is brought to you by HEB, the official tailgate headquarters of the Houston Texans.
Point of emphasis, stopping the run. We want to go out there and practice this week, and obviously not pleased with the way we did it the last couple weeks. So we want to make sure we go out there and practice extremely hard, watch a lot of film, make sure that we get that shored up.
Sportszone Unfiltered, right back at you from HEB, the grocery store home of the J.J. Watt Foundation. He's John Lopez, and that is former Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl 37 champion to be specific, and part of one of the best defenses in NFL history, Ellis Wims. Ellis, thank you so much for stopping by.
Oh, no problem, man.
And actually, you're always a Super Bowl champion. You're not former, right?
Yeah,
right, that's always.
Always and forever.
That's right. That's something they can't take away, like that sack you had.
I tried to take it away. That's not allowed.
Yeah.
That was defensive end J.J. Watt talking about a Texas defense that gave up 193 yards on the ground against the New York Giants this past Sunday. Ellis, defense had some issues, and they've been having some issues against the ground the last couple of weeks. So how do they fix these problems?
You know what? They fix these problems by just showing up in practice every day and just practicing their butt off to get more physical. You know, and run defense is about being physical and attitude. And you just practice. And I think from a coaching standpoint, they have to give these guys some responsibility to be accountable to. And when we played, we had a certain gap we were accountable for. So you give a guy, you got the B gap, you be accountable for it. If you're not in there, you have a problem with me. You know, so be more gap accountable, be more physical in the running game, and just bring a bad attitude to run defense. Because it's just all about being.
You brought up a word when we were talking earlier this week that I just think is so appropriate to this team: violent.
Yeah.
You say you got to be violent on the defensive line. I mean, and I guess it also depends on what you see in terms of what the coaches want from you. Is Romeo Crennel the type of guy that wants that violent guy, or is he more technique, hold your edge, hold your line, hold the gap? I mean, is that something that maybe they're not as capable of doing as what you guys were doing back in Tampa Bay?
Well, being violent. And it's tough in football these days because they're kind of taking the violence out of the practice. Yeah. You can't practice it as physical anymore. But developing that violent streak in your defensive line, I mean, it goes back to the training camp and every day in practice. But they've taken a little bit of that out of it. But you got to be violent at the initial attack of these offensive linemen, getting good extension. And you got to throw guys on the ground. You got to throw guys away, get rid of them, and get to the ball carrier. If you're allowing guys to stay on you after you try to dislodge from a blocker, I mean, he's just going to stay on you and push you by the ball carrier. So they just got to be more violent.
And it looks like a lot of the defensive linemen for the Texans, at least outside of J.J. Watt, have been having issues with that. How would you grade this defensive line after J.J. Watt?
I mean, right now, I would say C. You know, they're professional defensive linemen, but nobody's setting the world on fire right now. And somebody's got to step up. I mean, they bring in Ryan Pinkett, and Ryan's a veteran guy. He's been through the wars. He understands what it takes to get in there and stop the run. But I don't think the problems will be fixed just by Ryan. Like I said, they have to practice being violent every day to make that a part of what the defensive front does.
I want to switch to something else real quick because you have terrific perspective, I think, on the Adrian Peterson thing. And I know, don't change your channel. I know a lot of people are tired of it, but you got to hear what Ellis has to say. We talked about it on the radio show. You're from the South. You grew up in a home where there were spankings and switches and pretty good whippings and all that.
Extension cords.
And yet you've grown up, oh my gosh, really that too?
Extension cords,
and so that's the perspective, and you've grown up and kind of understood, okay, that's not right, and certainly for a 4-year-old, that's not right. I mean, I wanted to get your thoughts on Adrian Peterson because he hasn't grown out of that, so to speak.
Yeah, he needs to understand that what he did was wrong. I mean, you can't beat a 4-year-old with the switch, but at the same time, I understand that's how he was raised, so that's pretty much probably all he knows. So hopefully, he can learn from it. Hopefully he listens to the people that are trying to advise him on how he needs to discipline his kids. And like I told you earlier in the week, if he learns from it, he can be a great advocate moving forward.
Because you like him.
I love him as a person. He's a great person. That's how he was raised. That's all he knows. So he needs to get better. And I love to see him be an advocate for teaching other guys how they need to discipline their kids once he learns that what he did was wrong and he needs to get better from it.
I've interacted with the guy once. He was pretty funny. He wouldn't let me into the locker room to interview. But, I mean, the big matter out of this is it seems at this point he doesn't realize that it's wrong, even though he has been punished. And that's something that he's got to learn, because this isn't a matter of whether you believe in, corporal
spankings
punishment
or whatever,
for a
yeah.
kid. This
Yeah.
is a matter of, this is a 4-year-old kid, and he went way too far
he
with that.
went way too far. He's got to understand that his voice and his presence in his household is more than enough to command
Sure.
respect. I mean,
His size alone.
His size alone. I mean, his size, his stature. His kids see him on TV every day. I mean, his kids have an unbelievable amount of respect for him without him having to be violent with his kids. So I think he'll learn from it. Hopefully, he opens his mind and he has some good people around him. And like I said, moving forward, he could be a great advocate for teaching people how to take care of their kids.
That was Super Bowl 37 champion Ellis Wims of one of the best defenses of all time, the
It's like
Tampa
something
Bay
out of the 50s. They're
Buccaneers.
holding people to 8 points a game.
Oh man, they were pretty brutal, and they destroyed some teams out there.
Two guys in the Hall of Fame this year, so that's why Brooks and Sapp
That's
in the
right.
Hall of
Let's
Fame.
get this guy in the Hall of
Fame.
Fame.
Hey, let's go.
All right,
Hall
coming
of
up-
Fame backup.
That's right.
Coming up next, we go around the loop. We're going to bring Alex Del Barrio aboard the program. We're going to talk a little Texans. We'll also talk a little Houston Rockets. Don't go anywhere. It is Sportszone Unfiltered on the Cube, presented to you by HEB at HEB.